everyone, a very warm welcome. We're broadcasting from a freezing Davos in Switzerland. This is right outside the World Economic Forum Congress. And joining us for a discussion on the India story are four very special guests. I want to introduce, starting from my immediate left, Tulsi Tanti, Chairman and Managing Director of Suzlon Energy Limited, one of the biggest players in the Indian renewable energy space. With us also, flanking him, Ramesh Iyer. He's the Managing Director of Mahindra & Mahindra Financial Services. To the right, a very smart gentleman, one of the crispest pagdis you're going to see, Manpreet Singh Badal, Finance Minister of Punjab. Flanking him, finally, Ajay Veer Jakar, Chairman of the Bharat Krishak Samaj. It's a farmers forum in India, and farm distress likely to be one of the running issues of the 2019 campaign. It's minus 17 degrees here in Davos, Mr. Tulsi. Some renewable energy to keep us all hot would be very useful. Welcome. Thank you so much for giving us time. Tell me, what according to you is the key focus as we build up to the budget, the last and final financial document coming from the Modi Sarkar? What are the things that a corporate honcho like you would like to see the Modi Sarkar do?
I think it's a very clear, in a global economy environment, India is extremely, our economy is well positioned. We have lots of things in our plate. If we can grab faster, I think it's a great thing is there. So if I see the narrow down on a three area, A is a very high focus on our agriculture sector and value-added product and exports. Number two is the manufacturing, which is Make in India, is the dream of our Prime Minister, and to create a jobs and export. And the third is coming out to leverage the renewable energy competency and capability and technology expertise what we have to make India as a global manufacturing hub and to export all over the world, particularly for the wind turbine technology. And fourth, where it is our core competency of our country, we should focus on our services like IT and digital technology and area. It's a great opportunity to create a domestic jobs, not only that, to make a global sustainable on a digital technology. I think these are the focus area, is extremely economically a solution provider for our Indian economy.
Okay, Mr. Badal, the Indian government would obviously want to send a message here in Davos to the whole world that India is an economy on the move. The last 4.5 years have been transformative years for the Indian economy. Lethargy built over 70 years, unshackled, and the Indian tiger is now outpacing the Chinese dragon. Do you believe all of that to be true, or do you believe there are big holes in the India shining story?
Well, Rahul, first of all, I must say that these are very exciting times to be an Indian, and very exciting times to be a politician. You know, you could have been an Indian from 1950 to 1990. You know, GDP growth was 3.5%, but population was growing at 2.5%. So effectively, India was growing for 40 years at only 1%. So when you say 4.5 years, I would actually put it at 25 years, that when our GDP has started clocking 8%, 9%, 7%, population growth has dropped from 3.5 to 2.5. People like me have started dreaming dreams which my grandfather's generation could not have dreamt of, which my father's generation could not. So the message, as you said, is that, and what people like me feel, that within our lifetime, India must become a superpower. If we continue to grow at this pace for what we have done in the last 25 years, then I think after thousands and thousands of years, you know, India would take its place in, as you know, a rightful place in the community of nations. So we are very excited about this, and this is what we have come from. I've come from Punjab, of course. This is the first real serious public relation exercise by Punjab, trying to showcase itself. Because
well, Navjot Singh Sidhu will say his was the first real PR exercise in Kartarpur and in Pakistan.
PR exercise for Punjab.
Sure.
We were busy growing food grains because we were told that food security is as important as national security. You know, if you have a population of 1.25 billion people, God forbid if there's a harvest failure, even if you had money in your pocket, you would not be able to buy food grains in the international market to feed 1 billion people. But having said that, I think Punjab, we are seriously mounting a public relation exercise to diversify our economy, diversify the way we conduct ourselves in government, so on and so forth. So after almost 71 years, I mean, Davos started, I'm sure, much later. But Punjab is actually trying to get itself an industrial base, a service tax industry base, and so on and so forth.
Ajay Virjakar, there's been a lot of talk about farmer distress in the build-up to the general elections of 2019. How much of a factor will supposed agrarian distress be? Because the Modi Sarkar contests this very strongly, saying that this is just the figment of imagination of opposition leaders and activists, and on the ground, the lives of farmers are being transformed by their various schemes, the urea scheme being just one of them.
I think what needs to be understood is, for the policymakers and for the business houses, is that the development that has taken place in the last few decades, or that is being visualized for globalization, is transferring costs to the next generation. The whole idea of being here at the World Economic Forum is to change the narrative to say that you cannot develop by transferring costs to the next generation. And that's one of the reasons that farmers in India are suffering, because we are transferring costs of containing inflation to the farming community. And that's the crux of the situation. Till we do not realize this fact, that we do not change the narrative, that we need to develop in context to the environment and to the ecology that exists, we will continue to suffer.
Okay, Mr. Iyer, tell us, what, according to you, are the key expectations from the last vote in account? Are you still hoping that the government will be able to push through some economic measures, or is India Inc. giving up for all practical purposes, thinking this is likely to only be a populist budget with an eye on re-election and nothing else?
I think we do a lot of work in rural India. Rural India works on two cash flows. One is the farm cash flow, other is the infra cash flow. I think whatever that can be done, even now, I think what one should try and do is to kind of open up as many projects as one can that will absorb a lot of people as far as employment locally is concerned. The assets will get deployed pretty well, and I think that will drive the sentiments even for the future.
How much of an impact have schemes of the Modi government, like for example the Mudra Yojana, small loans, small medium enterprises, had on the ground? Because you've got opposition saying that the ticket amounts are too small, the majority of the loans are for very negligible amounts, and that's not enough to fuel anything more than pakoranomics.
I think, yes, the ticket size is small, but I think that's a beginning. I think if that experience is good, one should see how do you take it to the next level. I think that's extremely, extremely important. I think as far as we are concerned, one has to look at how do you keep the sentiments going positive. I mean, you must look at the SME segment. You know, what are they suffering from? The working capital requirement. I think the banking needs to be guided, that the SME can be supported well. Then and then only the manufacturing is going to really pick up big time. So I think it's not just any one thing. One has to kind of start looking at what are the gaps and how many more can be done, because it's extremely important that the cash flows have to hold up if the sentiments have to hold up.
Okay, Mr. Tanti, renewable sector has been one of the biggest thrust areas of the Modi government. How much of a facilitator have these policies been? Is there more that you would have liked to see to help the Indian renewable energy sector grow even faster than it is?
So the target of the renewable energy, the target is very ambitious, 175 gigawatt, and if you can really understand the last 3 to 4 years, no new capacity on a in a power sector areas, the conventional power capacity is coming. So currently India is building the energy need is based on renewables. Out of 175 gigawatt till now, the 75 gigawatt in last 4 years is the highest growth has happened, because earlier the system was based on state and now it is driven by the central government. So it has changed a lot. It took time, 2 years, to transform the whole industries to move in that direction. But when I see the down the line next 5 years, I think foundation is completed, roadmap is very clear is there. Cost of energy has come down because of the scale and everything. Just imagine 2 rupees 75 paisa is the cost of energy coming from renewable, which is the lowest cost compared to all energy form area. If I focus on the how to accelerate the growth, it's extremely important on a three-part area is there. The current bidding process required to relook on that, because the wind energy is 100% domestic manufacturing and India is exporting in other part of the world. world. So if you really want to expand the more manufacturing capacity, make India as a global manufacturing hub for the world market, we have to expand our market size very faster. So the bidding process is two things: is a barrier is there or constraint is there. So number one is each bidding process there is a price cap, which is creating a lot of constraints because of the financing and other things are become difficult because of the low pricing and everything. And the second is the reverse bidding process area. If you really address those two things, it will unlock the size of the demand and market to satisfy the domestic need also.
Nikhil Prasad Oja, as a partner at Bin Company, tell us what's the mood amongst all your clients? Are they still looking seriously at the Invest in India story, or are they mostly in a wait and watch mode, wanting to see what happens in May 2019?
Thanks, Rahul. The answer is that they are actually very bullish about India, and for very good reasons. The fact of the matter is elections do matter, of course, but not as much as some of the headlines may suggest. And that's because India has been and will remain a consumption-powered story for a number of years to come. If you were to rewind 12 years ago, we had an income distribution in India that was like the Eiffel Tower, a very broad base, large number of low-income consumers, and a very thin, narrow top, right? If you look at it today, it's become the classic pyramid. Yes, there has been growth in the middle class, but not a whole lot. It's still a pyramid. And in the next 12 years, some Bain & Company research that we've done and which we're going to show here at World Economic Forum is going to show that we are finally going to have a diamond-shaped economy. You're going to have 14 crore more households that are going to be in the middle-income group, and you'll have 20 million more households which are going to be in the high-income group. That's really what's going to power the economic story, and that's why our clients are very bullish on India.
Okay, so you're saying this is regardless of whatever happens in the elections, Mr. Iyer. Is there a perception you share, or does corporate India have this strong and looming fear that if there is some kind of a hung parliament that's thrown up in May, that would really impact how fast the Indian economy is able to grow from here?
I'm sure, if you look at any time in the past, the industry houses do adjust itself to the changing events. Yes, for debate, one may always say that, what happens if there is a change, what will be the next growth story, etc., etc. But I think all our strategies do suggest that you need to have an option 1 and 2 very clearly. Right, so I think...
So what's your option 1, what's your option 2?
I think be ready for any situation and do your best. I think these are business models. I think you have to understand your consumer better, create product and services that suits the consumer, and then I think the businesses do well.
Mr. Thanti, do you also have option 1, option 2? Is option 2 a nightmare in some senses, a motley group of different alliances, or you think it doesn't really matter?
No, I have a little bit different, the view is there. Business run on a long-term strategy. It cannot possible by one event you can change. You can fine-tune. Not much more, because it's longer. So the strategy of the long-term capex investment in our industry is a very high capex industries. It's required a 5 years plan, and based on that we have to. But yes, we have to keep in a watch whatever the current the policy regime is there, regulatory framework in the energy sector is there, how the government can reshape if there is any changes is coming on the situation. So we have to take consideration in our risk assessment and plan another area. But I am quite confident. I think government will continue, and I don't see that much impact on our.
So you're voting for a Modi re-election?
Yeah, I am. Sure, no doubt about that, because the renewable sector earlier target was 30 gigawatt, and now after this government has changed the target of 175 gigawatt.
Okay.
And truly, really sustainable economy and energy securities we are bringing.
Mr. Badal, you're Finance Minister Punjab. You're also a Congress leader now. There are two theories we've seen. One is option 1, option 2. The other is, the fact is, and Mr. Thanti is voicing it, but a lot of corporates would like to see the Modi Sarkar come back to power. They are concerned that if it's Congress with a whole bunch of alliance partners, there'll be chaos. You don't know who's in charge. There'll be all kinds of wheeling and dealing, and that's not good for the India story.
Well, Rahul, for a start, I don't think so. I'm here, in Switzerland, standing here, wanting to discuss India's domestic politics.
Sure.
I think, frankly, you must give the Indian voter in the kind of respect, because he's never made a wrong choice. There is an acute amount of embarrassment, and I'm cutting across party lines by saying that, of course, India could have done better, much better. There is a lot of headroom for improvement. So I wouldn't really go on this that if there is a coalition, and if you see the history of India, a lot of good work has happened during coalition governments. And so actually just leave it to the Indian voter, let him decide and respect the verdict. And I'm positive about
Mr.
India.
Ahuja, is a coalition fractured mandate a worse nightmare for India Inc. and for global corporations, or does it really not matter? It's business as usual regardless of who wins.
I think the fact of the matter is the latter. It is going to be business as usual. And yes, political leadership and the executive does matter. But I don't see that as being the rate constraining factor over the next decade. The rate constraining factor is really about, whosoever is in power. Can we get our citizens the right amount of employment? Can we make sure that the next generation of people who are entering the workforce have both quality and quantity of jobs that are required? And I'm quite hopeful that whichever government is in power is going to be seized with this and is going to take the steps that are...
Mr. Tanti, you rooted quite strongly for the BJP and for the Prime Minister to be re-elected. The fact is, a lot of corporate leaders may not say this so much on a live camera here in Davos, but they are pretty disappointed with the fact that the Prime Minister has not moved on economic reform with the kind of aggression he promised when he was in opposition. Things like candidate Modi saying the government has no business to be in business is not what he did. Now, from a renewable energy spectre, he's been like Santa Claus. Of course, you love him, Suzlon loves him, but that's not necessarily the case for the rest of corporate India as well. And while they may not voice it so much on open camera, once the camera's lights are turned off, they're not necessarily very happy and not rooting quite the way that you are.
No, it's we have to understand the growth of the economy opportunity versus the global windows. Within that, the government role is extremely important. How and what way they shape the economy and supporting on the policy and regulatory. They are not the executive. Real business is executed by the industries. When I see the transformation in the last 4 to 5 years, the majority, the leadership has a majority in the government. I think that's give the lots of freedom to change a lot of areas. So the transformation systems has established and processes established and new initiatives have taken. Now real phase of the fruits will start in the next 5 years.
Mr. Iyer, this is what Finance Minister Jaitley also says, that we've laid the building blocks which will lead to greater returns in time to come. That, you may not see the returns immediately, but the returns will be visible in some time from now. Do you agree with that assessment? That a lot of the moves like the insolvency code, etc., are the building blocks that have been put in place. The results will be seen, the fruits will be had in some time from now.
I'm sure any kind of an action that's put to place now will start kind of producing results over a period of time. Too early to say why not today and why not tomorrow. But I think as far as we're concerned, I very strongly think as a financial services institution, we are looking at financial inclusion. It doesn't matter, who is the government. Ultimately, the consumers have to be benefited.
On financial inclusion, how many marks do you give the Modi Sarkar? How satisfied are you with the effort they win? Because there are two theories. One is that they've opened more accounts and really pushed harder on financial inclusion than ever before. The other is that you opened a lot of accounts, a large percentage of which don't have any amounts, and therefore, it's just an account in name only.
I think more than that, I would look at how technology is penetrated deeper, and that's kind of broad-basing the consumers to participate, and that's giving the transactional comfort for a financial institution to also reach that deeper.
Okay.
Like today, we have our consumers in 360,000 villages, and we feel it comfortable in the sense that we are able to reach them, at least communicate to them through technology, while the business model may still be physical.
Mr. Badal, what's the Punjab angle here in Davos? You're trying to say look beyond food grains, but what does Punjab offer beyond food grains? A lot of the industrial towns of Punjab now are way past their prime. They're not quite as robust as they used to be. So as Finance Minister, what's your bid here in Davos? What are you telling the world?
Well, Rahul, I don't know, many people would not know it, but in the entire history of Punjab, we have never had an industrial lockout. There's never been an industrial strike.
Despite the communists being quite strong?
In Punjab, there is no labor problem. And the productivity of Punjabi labor, and you'll have to, and I'm not saying it because I'm the finance minister, there are many German companies here, and they will actually, say what I'm saying, that the productivity of a Punjabi labor is as good as a German labor. There's glass combines, there's Goetz, there are many German companies. Labor is fantastic. A lot of people during when there was political turbulence, there was some incentive given to our immediate neighbors, the hill states. They were made special category states, and they were given excise concessions and so on and so forth. They're all moving back because of labor problem. So Punjabi labor, it's actually the character of the people. So Punjab actually is one of the finest places one could do business in terms of ease of doing business. Our power rates are probably the lowest in the country. And basically, Rahul, Punjab is desperate. The hunger to succeed is much more than any other
state. Is that
state.
Also because of all the farm loan waivers that you've done? You have no money and therefore you're desperate.
No. Why we are desperate is that with the coming in of the GST, 40% of our entire revenue base, tax base, which used to be taxing food grains, has been subsumed. At the moment, we are in a compensation regime, but this window is going to close very quickly in 3.5 years. So Punjab has to diversify. Punjab has to succeed. So the option of failure is not open to Punjab. And that's the reason why I'm here.
Finally, Mr. Jakar, will farmers across rural India, in your view, back the Prime Minister and the BJP in his bid for re-election, or do you believe agrarian distress is for real? And like we saw in the Hindi heartland, a large majority of the farmers are likely to vote against the BJP. What's your view?
I think farmers are in distress across the country, and they've been in distress before Mr. Modi came. It's just that their distress has been aggravated because of government policies and bad governance, and that's a fact, and farmers will react to that completely. But then earlier question that you were asking the other panelists is, does government change make a difference? And I agree with some panelists who said it does not make a difference, because I think so both the political parties do not have an economic agenda which is different from each other, except naming schemes differently and except giving election slogans which are never met. So at the end of the day, nothing is going to change. Farmer distress is something that farmers will have to fight against, whichever party is in power.
Okay, so I want to thank all of you. It's freezing cold and I don't want to keep you out in the cold any longer. But this has been an interesting discussion on economy, on finance, and also on the budget, and then a little bit of politics thrown in as well. You had some interesting answers. Thank you so much for joining us here at Davos Brainstorm, our live coverage of the World Economic Forum 2019. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you would love to.